everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the NJM365 user group. We have been coming a couple of times this month because we have Konstantin, who is from Germany, coming here to speak about Power Platform governance with Runpipe. He wanted to share how we can roll out Microsoft Power Platform in your organization and enable your IT and users. A very important topic. We always talk about governance a lot right now in this cybercrime era. Governance is very good, not only for the cyber threats, but also for managing properly your own products, your own solutions. Thank you for having us here. Enjoy the session. You can ask your questions on your comments on whatever platform you're working in, or you're seeing the video, and we'll be replying, or actually, Konstantin will be replying to your questions. So let me bring him on the stage here. Hi, Konstantin. And you're on mute, Konstantin. We're speaking. That's the normal thing nowadays.
All right. Hope now it's working. Now you can
Yeah,
hear
I
me.
can hear you well. Yeah.
Hi, Manpreet. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for sharing your thoughts here on with this amazing topic. I would say Power Platform governance, as I was saying, it's very important with so many
hmm
Power Apps coming in organization level. If you're a big organization, you have thousands and thousands of it. So it's good to control them, right? So
Yeah.
Konstantin, the stage is all yours.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching. And yeah, today's session is about the Power Platform governance. Already told Manpreet, so the session is going to be around 45, maybe 60 minutes. It's a little bit depending on how many questions you're going to have. I think before I start, I will like talk a little bit, like 2 sentences maybe about myself. So my name is Konstantin. I'm located in Germany, in a city called Darmstadt. It's close to Frankfurt. Maybe you've heard of it. And I started as a consultant in the area of Office 365. Did some SharePoint projects at the beginning, but like a couple of weeks after, I already started with the Power Platform as a trainer and a developer. And like the more and more trainings we gave, or the more and more change management campaigns we had at customers, the more they yeah, felt the pain that they need to have a governance, because then you have such a huge app spread, or they might encounter the first problems of data loss, for example. So this is why I became a governance consultant at companies. Maybe you've heard of the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. So this is one thing that I implemented a lot at our customers. And then at one point we noticed that this is not all that belongs to governance, or in our point of view. And so this is why we started developing Runpipe since 1.5 years now. So about us, we are a startup within a company. So it's part of the Ionic. Ionic is a Office 365 consulting company. And our company consists of experienced trainers, app developers, but we're doing some intranet things on SharePoint as well. I don't know how many people we are at the moment. Does not look like too many. So the first question always is like, how far are you establishing a governance inside of your organization? Maybe Manpreet, you already told like you have quite a lot of experience in governance, right? So it's not a new topic for you.
Oh yes, yeah. I think I can understand the governance part of it, but there are so many tools in the market, or there's so many questions people still have on Power Apps. I think
Yeah.
those to be answered are still pending. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to start with some basic things. So like usually I always like quickly explain the components of the Power Platform, and I always need to update this slide because it changes very quickly, and now it's already outdated because of the Power Pages, which are missing inside of here. But of course, like the Power Platform can't live by its own, like the components of Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Virtual Agents, and of course the Power Pages. But of course, you need connectors, and there hundreds of different connectors out there. Some of them, they're really harmless. Some of them lead easily to data loss. So this is why governance is so important, because I think oftentimes the Power Platform is underestimated by the IT and is maybe something you can play with, but actually you can create huge benefit with it, but as well it can lead to some risk as well. So the agenda for today would be to first describe what are the challenges of having low code inside of the company. Maybe Manpreet, if you want, you have some points that you want to add. The next thing is how to secure your tenant. We're going to talk about environment strategies and data loss prevention policies. So those ones do not have anything to do with Runpipe in the first place, but I just want to bring you some basic knowledge of what things you need to be aware of when you want to establish a governance inside of your company. And then we have 3 points with which we always start. Like, first thing is you want to monitor the activity. So is there already a mess inside of your tenant, or is there still can you do a proper rollout of the Power Platform? The second thing is to create some alerts and acts. So if you know what you have, like what the inventory of your platform is, then you can describe like what is the what should be the triggers where you want to get notified when certain like business policies aren't met. And the last thing would be, if you have established a proper governance and made sure that all the applications you have inside of your tenant are compliant and secure, then you have created a safe playground for your citizen developers, and you can enable them to build awesome solutions. So oftentimes what we see at customers is, or they come to us when the mess is already done. So sometimes they underestimated the power of the Power Platform. So there was development without any rules or guidelines. There were no data loss prevention policies in place. The citizen developers never heard of staging, like going from development to test to production or pre-production and then to production. As I said, no data loss prevention, so all data connectors are available for the citizen developers. And it might lead to having many orphaned apps and flows spread around across your tenant, which don't work properly anymore, and lead to the risk of business continuity. So maybe some processes don't work anymore, but you don't have the person in place that can fix the problem. But this is what we want to talk about today. Like, how can we either not come in this situation where you have this mess inside of your tenant, or to, if this is already done, how you can clean it up. So the local challenges I have in three, or we see in 3 areas. So in the financial bucket, in the business area, and in the IT perspective. In the financial perspective, it's easy to lose control about the costs because there are many different licenses for the Power Platform, for each tool of the Power Platform. And sometimes it makes sense to take the one license or the other license, and this can change over time depending on the consumption behavior of your citizen developers or of the users of those applications. The second part is the business part. Like, you have many citizen developers already building your applications, but what if there's a critical application which needs some professional help, and people maybe don't know which is the right person to talk to, for example. And from the IT perspective, of course, those are the most points. I think the most severe issue is the data loss or IT security. So you as an administrator might not know where do the data come from and where do they go to. a crucial example would be getting data from your ERP system and sending them out via Twitter. I think this is one of the most known examples. It doesn't happen too often, hopefully, but might happen, and this is a risk you want to be aware of. And of course, you have the problem of shadow IT, that you have so many applications out there or flows that you are not aware of, and for example, they break and nobody's able to fix them. And then depending on, like, we in Europe, we have some regulations called GDPR. I think all the companies in Europe need to follow them. But also businesses from the US, for example, doing business with European countries, they need to follow GDPR. So making sure that you work properly with personal related data, and depending on the area your business is coming from, for example, the pharma industry, need to be aware of GXP regulations, for example. So there are two things, like I will display or explain them later a little bit more in detail when we talk about Runpipe, which is two different, like, major approaches you can go as a company when it comes to app development. The first one is the central development, the other one is the citizen development. So for central development, of course, you need a governance. You need people, like, let's say you have an app factory inside your company who's doing all the development of your applications, and they need to be trained. They need to know, like, how to document their solutions. They need to know which regulations they need to follow and be compliant with. But the effort you need to put inside of the governance is not so high than in the other scenario, which is the citizen development scenario. And this is what the Power Platform was built for, like making sure that everyone inside of the company is able to build their own solutions and, like, solve their own problems. But those people you cannot train all of them. So you need to make sure that somehow you have the processes in place to make sure that all those solutions are compliant, documented, that you can give them a proper support, or a community, of course, as well. Most of the time, it's not that you have either one or the other. Most of the time, you have both to a certain degree. And I think Microsoft says like 80% is citizen development and 20% is central development. And this is based on the complexity of the application. So if it's an easy application, it can be done by the business themselves. Most of the time with the more critical or more complex applications or automate flows, they need to be done within the app factory or in the central development. Manpreet, do you have anything to add when it comes to the challenges? Something that comes to your mind from, like, previous customers, or maybe someone as well from the community? Of course.
Sure, I think the citizen development, when organizations try to push forward, it's quite, I would say, 80% helpful for, of course, the organization, because they have to put some less effort or development skills on to their enterprises, right? But when it comes to governance, it's very tough for the admin people to handle citizen development, because they see a lot of unrelated connections, or they see a lot of apps which are third party and not part of the organization. So they need to be on a rundown, keep having archival processes in place, and keep having secure walkthrough of those applications, especially environments. I would say that's the toughest one right now. And most important, which I've seen an issue, is like when a person leaves the organization and the app is not shared, getting it back from an environment is quite tough. So those are a few of the pain points, I would say.
Think so too. And I mean, many things can be automated so that an administrator does not, like, go in all those apps all the day, and there are already solutions in place, like the Center of Excellence Starter Kit, where you have a proper process in place, which helps them. But of course, you need to, like, incorporate all the citizen developers so that they know how to do what to do and how to build applications in a safe manner. Okay, so now it's going to be a little bit more technical. Hope that's fine for everyone. So the first thing is how to secure the tenant. And this is like more or less a basic thing you need to do, but it really helps in the end to avoid problems. So when you're going to create environment, so what is an environment? Like an environment is a container where people can build their applications and their Power Automate flows. So you have inside of the container, you have specific user groups, for example. You have specific data sources when they're from Dataverse, and they are all locked in this environment. And you cannot exchange data from one environment to the other. Technically, it's possible if you're not using the Dataverse as your backend. But this is the general idea, and it totally makes sense to have different environments for different purposes. So what we most of the time do when we are working with bigger companies is that we split the environments by the audience or by region, for example. So then we have environments for EMEA, for APAC, and for North America, and we always check like when an application is going to be built, that it's going to be in this environment where it has like where the user group is coming from. Of course, might be that one person from APAC needs to have access to an application on EMEA, but at least like you have a structured approach. When you've done that, like when you have created, at least in your mind, like the environments by the audience, then you can create them by purpose. And that means like for EMEA, in this case, you create 3 different environments. This sometimes depends as well from company to company on their needs and on the complexity of their applications. But in general, you say you can have like a development, a test, and a production environment. Some companies, they're going to have a pre-prod environment between test and production. Okay, so for the environment strategy, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. Like the default environment is the environment that everyone knows, whoever has built an application. Either it's called default environment or the administrators have renamed it. Microsoft themselves, they propose to rename it to personal productivity, since it should be really used only for that, because it's not a staging environment, and it lacks of some features that production environments offer. The second thing is to restrict the environment creation only to administrators. This is something that you need to check inside of the admin center, the Power Platform admin center, but it's very, very important to have this in place. Then you're going to create the environments, as I said, for audience and for staging. And after this, somehow your people or your citizen developers need to understand like what is the process, because you don't want them to just build something in the environment they have access to, which is the default environment, but not doing any staging. So you need to make them aware of that there is a process on how things are handled. Next thing are the data loss prevention policies. For them, I'm going to do a quick demo as well. But what are the data loss prevention policies? So they enforce rules for connectors. As I already said before, there are over 700, I think 750 connectors at the moment in place. Some of them are from Microsoft. Most of them are from third-party providers. And you want to restrict the use of the data of the connectors inside of your environments. So the DLPs are defined by the administrator. So you either need to be a Power Platform administrator or the administrator for a specific environment. If you're an environment administrator, you can set the DLP for one specific environment. As the administrator, you can as well assign data loss prevention policies for the whole tenant or to many different environments. So as a global administrator, as I said, you can apply them to all environments or just specific environments. And you can, when you set them up, I'm going to show you, you can classify them as business data, non-business data, or block business data. Block business data, of course, they cannot be used at all. So if you have one environment where the DLP is in place that is saying Gmail is in the blocked bucket, you cannot use it inside of a Power Automate flow or in a Power App. If the Gmail connector is inside of the non-business bucket, you can use it, but you cannot use it with other connectors which are in the business data bucket. So you need to, if you're working with the business and non-business data, the name is not saying that much, but it's just saying you cannot work with connectors which are in different buckets at the same time or in the same application or Power Automate flow. Then there are, I think it's not anymore in preview. It was by the last time I gave this presentation. More granular DLP policies. So, for example, for the SQL connector, you can define which actions you as a user or which actions the citizen developer can use out of this connector. For example, you can just read from SQL tables, but you cannot add, update, or delete any entries. Okay, so far so good. Any questions? If not, I'm going to jump inside of the Power Platform Admin Center. So there are like different ways how to access it. Most of the time I go to make.powerapps.com and I just click over here on this button, on the settings button, or you can just go on admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com to access the admin center. Inside of here, I am in my demo tenant, so there's not too much going on. But there's one thing, like when you first want to know what is the inventory of my tenant, what is going on there, and you don't want to install the COE and you don't want to buy Runpipe at the first place, you can just go for analytics. And then you can check, for example, for Power Automate or Power Apps, like how many Power Automate flows you have inside of the environment. You might probably see this just for one environment, or you can filter by different environments, but you cannot see this for the whole tenant. But if you want to see it for the whole tenant, you first need to go to the settings again on the top right, and go to the Power Platform settings. And then on the right side, you can enable the tenant level analytics, so you can see like how many flows you have in total, how many of them are successful or how many of them failed, and so on. Okay, but let's go to the data loss prevention policies. For them, just go on the left side to policies and then data policies, and you just create a new one. I don't have any in here at the moment. So let's take a very restrictive policy for the default environment. I renamed the default environment to personal productivity, but so I will give it the name as well. Always make sure in the end, like when you have a huge tenant with many environments, you're going to end up with a lot of data loss prevention policies. So make sure that you have that you name them properly. Now I hit on next. All right, already 776 connectors at the moment for the Power Platform, and you can see them all at the moment, the non-business bucket. Here we have the business bucket where we have 0, and we have the block bucket where we have 0. So at the moment, everyone can use, for example, the Teams connector alongside with the HTTP with Azure AD connector or the Planner connector and so on. So we want to restrict it a little bit. The first thing I want to do is, since like there's a growing number of those connectors, is to set the default group not to non-business but to blocked, and I rather want to unblock them rather than block them because some damage has been done. So I just click on set default group, can move them to the blocked. So you say every time there's a new connector, it's going to go automatically to the blocked bucket. And now I'm going to, since I'm in the most restrictive environment, I'm not saying you have to always be that restrictive, but first I want to block everything that's blockable. You can see some of them are blockable, like the most of them, but some are not, like all the Microsoft connectors are non-blockable. So I just want to see all of them which are blockable. I select them, and then I can select all of them and move them either to business or to blocked. I'm going to move them to blocked. Of course, it makes sense to go through here and see like the Power Apps for Makers connector. You want to move them to business, for example. So it makes sense to go through it one by one. That's just a one-time thing. Now I'm going to clear all the filters and everything else, like all the other connectors I'm moving to business connector. I mean, I could leave them in non-business. Technically, it does not make any difference, but I rather have them in the business bucket. So when you go through it, you can see that there are some connectors which might not be used so often inside of your company or should not be used. For example, Microsoft Kaisala, you can just move them to non-business. That means people can still use it inside of their Power App, but they cannot use any other connector because all of them are in the business bucket. All right, let's go to next. Or there's one more thing I want to show you. Let's say the SAP connector or SQL connector. Say I want to move this one to business, so it can be used. But I don't want everything from this connector to be used. Some actions I want to be blocked. So I just go to connector actions, and then you can see all the actions that are currently available. One thing to keep in mind is if there is a new action, right now it's going to be an allowed action. So it will not be automatically blocked, but you can change this in those settings down here. So I will say again, like when there is a new action, I'm going to block it first and unblock it if necessary. Okay, so delete is like I will like disable all of them. Get tables is fine, get row is fine, but everything where I can manipulate the data, I want to have it blocked. Okay, now go to the custom connectors, and here like the custom connectors, they all work with APIs, and inside of here you can add patterns like to which API the applications can talk to. For example, the Graph API is fine, but some other APIs might not be. So you want to allow the use of some APIs, but disable the use of the others. Let's go to next. And here it asks me if I want to add this data loss prevention policy to all environments, to multiple environments, or to all but excluding certain environments. I want to assign it just to one environment, but therefore I need to add multiple. Click next, and here you can see all the environments that I have. I'm choosing the personal productivity environment. Click to add to policy. I can see it in this bucket. I hit next, and then I can click on create policy. And here is might be one pitfall. So if you already have many applications inside of your default environment or many flows inside of your default environment, might be that if some of them are violating the new DLPs you just want to create, that they are not working anymore. Either you cannot open the application, the flow is going to be disabled, and you need to enable it again. So this might lead as well to risk of business continuity. And like this is what happens in the runtime, but during the build time, when the people are creating their applications, they get an error message saying that there's a conflict with the DLPs. So it makes sense to first check which applications are already in place inside of my company, and which of them would violate those DLPs before creating the data loss prevention policy. the best thing is always to, when you create a new environment, first set up the data loss prevention policy before letting your citizen developers inside of the environment. Okay, now I'm creating the DLP and it's done. All right, let's go back here. So any questions so far? I don't think so. So I already told like how to monitor the activity within the Power Platform Admin Center. There are different ways how to do it. Like, as I said, there is the Center of Excellence Starter Kit and there's Runpipe. I'm going to show you in a bit. But first thing is, what do you want to monitor? So the first thing you want to monitor is, who are your app makers? Like, how experienced are they with using the Power Platform? Are they working with connectors, which might be risky to use, for example, or do they use the Google Mail connector or Dropbox or something that you don't want to have inside of your tenant? Then you can identify the criticality of your applications, like how much support are they going to need during the life cycle. You want to identify which applications and which flows are orphaned. In the best case, you don't want to know it, but you want to have a process that automatically sends out a message to the department asking who's going to be the new owner of it. Some other companies, they work with service accounts or technical accounts, so which are not bound to a user, so they never leave the company. So this might be a good approach as well. When you're rolling out the Power Platform inside of the company within, let's say, a change management campaign, you want to know like how many users do we have at the beginning and how many app makers or citizen developers do we have over time. Like after 6 months of training, you want to see more adoption, and in order to see it, you need to monitor it. Then you want to see the monetary benefit of the projects. Like the projects, I will come to this on the next slide, but you want to see like how much value does the platform generate for your business. To, for example, if you are the IT administrator, you can show this to your boss, for example, to get backed up, to give even more trainings to help transforming to more digitization. And you want to ensure a documentation of the project so that everything is properly documented, not too much, not too less. So if one person is leaving the company, or if you might need to do a migration, because hopefully we never need to do that, but we saw this with Lotus Notes, for example, where you have a lot of processes or undocumented Lotus Notes spread around across the company, and they need to be migrated to the Power Platform. Okay, so what is a project-based approach? This is something that, or was one thing that we came across when working with the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. So in the COE, it governs apps and flows separately, but not together. And we say like a project consists of maybe one application, 3 Power Automate flows, and maybe 1 Power BI dashboard or Logic app. So this everything is one project, and the whole project needs to be documented in its context, and not like all those components separately. And then we have a documentation which consists of the concept. So what is this all about? Like a brief summary. What is the business impact? So how much money are we going to save by implementing this solution? And what is the technical description in case you're not available and the IT needs to take over to give technical support? Okay, next thing is alert and act. So we already talked about it, Manpreet, a couple of minutes ago, that you don't want to go through your platform every day and check all the applications, but you just want to be automatically notified if there's something that needs your attention, like an application that does not work anymore. Maybe it has some deprecated connectors, for example. You want to identify if there are orphaned apps and flows, or you want to have a process in place that notifies the business that there's one flow which is not working anymore because the person who has the owner rights left the company. Then you want to, or might want to, implement approval workflows. So people need to be made aware of that there is a process in place to get access, for example, to an environment, or you want to create a new environment for them, that they can ask you for premium licenses, for example, like if they don't have like the per user license, and you want to have the approvals for compliance regulations and IT security. Okay, no questions so far. If this is going to change, you can just write it in the chat. Okay, last thing is to enable your citizen developers. So this is about, as I said at the beginning, if you have already created the safe space for your citizen developers, you can embrace them to build more solutions and to be faster in digital transformation. And this can be done by building a community. In Europe, we use a lot of time Teams. Yammer is not too much of a thing, but I think in the US, Yammer is more used. I don't know how what you would say to this, Manpreet, if this is like widely used or not. But some kind of community that people like the citizen developers, they can help each other. They can raise questions. I mean, it's like many companies, they already have it in place, but some companies still don't have it. And it totally makes sense to have one. Then you can identify like who are the heroes. You can either do this by listening to the community or by checking the data, like how many applications have been built by one person, how many different connectors has he or has she used already, to identify who is the right person to talk to when you're using the Salesforce connector, for example, who has already worked with it. So something like an easy way to identify your champions. Then you can provide them with live and on-demand training material, like app in a days, for example, or dashboard in a days. And you can use a wiki. Some of our customers, they use, for example, the Confluence wiki to come to gather the knowledge of the company. I mean, you don't need to have the information that are already on the Microsoft Docs, but you can have something which is really unique to your company, like who are the people you need to go to when you need access to some specific database, for example, or how do I get user support inside of my company. This would be my last slide before I hand it over to you again, Manpreet. I would quickly go through over Runpipe so that you can get a glimpse on how we tackle citizen development in there. Let me open this one up. Okay, so maybe you know it already from the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. The first time or every time you're building an application, you might get an email the next day asking you, nice that you have built this application. Would be great if you can give us some information about it. And the same thing we're going to do in here as well. So the first touch point with Runpipe is always, or like 90%, if it was not like communicated via the internet, for example. So this is going to be the first touch point, an email, and then you go in here. You can see which application you have built. So in this case, the inventory app. So congrats for building the inventory app. Please register this one in Runpipe. Whenever you have questions, watch the video. She will explain you. So we don't want to register, or we want to register all the activities that are inside of the tenant, but they don't have all the same priority like when you're just building an application for educational purpose only, so you're just trying something out, but this is never going to be shared with someone, or you're never going live with this solution. You can just say this is for educational purpose only. If you say this and next day you're going to share it with 20 people, the administrator will know, and then you can add it to a project again. So if it's not educational, you either need to create a new project for it, or you add it to an already existing project. So we want to make it as simple as possible for the citizen developer, but at the same time, we want to make it as compliant and as secure as possible. So when I add it to a project, I can choose a project from here, and it's already selected, like the inventory management, but I can like browse through my projects to add it to one. So I choose the inventory management project for this, and then I can click on start. Now what you see is like we call it the project space, which is like the whole documentation of your project. Consists of a summary. Already did this. I mean, we could have started with building everything up from scratch as well, but this might have taken some time. You can add text to it. We're using text a lot in Runpipe in many different scenarios. The idea is to easily find, for example, all the projects that our company has from the logistics department. So you just can click on any tag and you find like applications that might, or projects that might be interesting for you. So in here you can upload files that are relevant for the project. For example, it can be maybe a presentation where you have some intro slides to your project, what you want to build, in this case, the inventory management app. Then you have your app's flows and dashboards regarding this project. So for example, here we have the inventory app, where I'm the only owner, can see that at the moment it's not using any connectors because it's a demo app. I can show you, and here's what it's looking now. Okay, does not. Let me see. But you can edit and play it from Runpipe itself. You can see like how many people you have shared it with, and so on and so forth. There are some features which are coming up in 2 or 3 months, which is the security feature. So your application is going to be scanned, and if there are some warnings, issues like the health status of the application will be displayed in here. So for example, you're using deprecated connectors, this will be a flag in here. Or you have some functions which are not working, this will be displayed in here as well. So the next thing is like the structured approach on how the documentation should be done. So first you create the project, the concept, like what is the scope, who are the team members, what is the process description. Maybe you have already, maybe with pen and paper, some screen design on how your application is going to look like. And then you can talk with your teammates about it and make some changes to it before you're actually developing in Power Apps. Because I mean, it's low code, but sometimes it's difficult with more complex applications to change the design or the UX. Every time you have some problems in understanding how to create the context or how you can validate your concept, you can always watch one of our video tutorials. Then we give you the possibility to add the to add a BPMN, so the business process model, from a user perspective. You don't need to describe how your flow is working, but that the users understand how it's working. Then you can define the business impact, and lastly, the technical description. And once you're done with that, you can go for the IT review. So this might be, for example, when you want to go live, then some questions can be asked. And this is really different, or differs from company to company, on what questions they're going to ask. For example, in the pharma industry, you want to know, do you work with patient data, for example? If you do, Power Platform might not be the right tool for you, or it depends on the company, but you want to ask them questions before you let the application aside of the dev, test, and prod environment. So once you have submitted the project for a review for the IT, this goes over to the IT, and the IT has some different view on Runpipe. So they have the pipeline view and they have the reports view. The pipeline view is about all the projects that are in place at the moment inside of Runpipe, which ones are requesting a review, for example, the inventory management project. So as an administrator, you can open it. You can check, like, are there any policy violations? We already have some predefined ones. For example, one of those applications is inside of the project is using deprecated connectors, or one of the flows does really often like not work because like, for example, it has only 70% success rate. So those things can be shown up in here. This is like, we do this automatically with Power Automate Flow as well, and with some APIs. And we always have the audit, like the audit logs in here. For example, for the review request, you have a PDF document. No, this is not the most beautiful one, but at least it's like a screenshot or a snapshot of the questions that or the answers that have been given by the project team. So once you approve it, different things can happen. Really depends on your needs. Can be that you give access to a specific environment. So sometimes we ask in one questionnaire in which region you're located, and once we approve the project, we automatically assign the user to an Azure Active Directory security group, which is connected to an environment of that region. So there you have like an easy way to give access or to provide access to users. Then as an administrator as well, you can see I'm in the demo environment, so not too much happening in there, but I already created some projects with quite impressive business value. But there, the dashboard is mostly about adoption, like how many people do I have inside of the Power Platform, what is the business impact to it, what are the license spends, of course, and what is the adoption of the Power Platform inside of my tenant. Okay, and here I will give you a brief overview, like what is the person looking at inside of Runpipe when the person is on the home screen. Like, you can see all your projects. You have a view of all your project items, like all your apps, flows, and dashboards. You can filter them by type. You can search for them, and this might be a quite helpful tool for the citizen developers, because most of the time, if you want to see all like an application which belongs to one Power Automate Flow, you need to go to make.powerapps.com and to flow.microsoft.com, and then hopefully you made your like a proper naming that you can find your apps and flows again, which belong to each other. Inside of here, you have everything in one place. And I think that's hopefully the beauty of it. And then, of course, like if you want, you can have the video tutorials in here as well, for sure. And you can post your trainings in here, for example, the compliance training, where you can just sign up for you don't need to go to another training, like internal training page, but you have like a citizen developer hub in one place. And I think it's already 10 to 7 in here, so we have 10 minutes left. Maybe there's some questions from the audience, if not, maybe from you, Manpreet.
Sure, I was gonna comment for that. So I love this tool. I wanted to understand a couple of things here. So this is like every user will have access to this to create a project, right?
Yes.
And then they're gonna fill in all details and submit for approval. So when they submit for an approval, does it get deployed to the production environment, the default environment, or it stays on the personal environment? Like, what happens there?
So right now there's not. It's not like the ALM from the Center of Excellence. So you don't have an automatic deployment of the application. But what you do is if they if they started with the project and they described it, and the IT says, okay, that's fine, they can move to another environment, which is not the default environment. You give them access to it,
Yeah.
and this is like the first thing that you need for the approval. And then, for example, anytime you have you make some changes to an application or to a flow within this project, you're getting asked like once every, you can like define it, but once every week or once every second week, if you made some changes, if those changes are still like compliant to the answers that you have given into your project description, or if you need to yeah, change the project and need to ask for another approval. But we want to make it like as simple as possible, and only want to make them or give them some tasks to do if we might think or the company might think that it's needed.
Oh yeah, that's good. And do you have role based, like for example, who will approve these requests? Only they
Yeah.
will be able to see those stuff, right? Like,
Yes. So this here where I'm going is the like the overview of all the projects.
yeah,
And right now I'm logged in as an administrator, so I can see all of those things. Usually, you as a citizen developer, you can only see like the home screen. You can create a project. You can see all the projects, your project items, the knowledge base, and the trainings. And only the administrators, they have access to the pipeline, the reports, and the admin settings.
okay,
Um, Inside of the projects, like my project, where like in this case the risk management, I'm the only member of. It's only me or the administrator who's able to see everything in there.
yeah,
Everyone else is just able to see. I can show you in here. Like one. Yeah, let's take this one. I don't know if you, yeah, amazing low-code app that will utilize the functionality of the Power Platform. Nice. So I can, as a user, I can only see like the summary. I can see the labels, like the tags of it, and I can see who are the team members. But I cannot open it if I'm not either a member of the team or the administrator. So
okay,
we have some role-based security in there.
okay.
Yeah. So.
And one last question I have on the report. So is it the reports? It's like an embedded Power BI, which can be used to put up somewhere, or no? It's just part of the tool.
It's part of the tool, but we already like implemented at customers the like that you have custom Power BI dashboards,
Yeah.
because we are not bound to only the Power Platform. Like we are a low-code governance software, but we have a strong focus of the Power Platform since we all worked with it. But you can like embed UiPath, for example,
Oh
within
yeah.
it, or Nintex, Mendix. And those things, we don't have a standard report. So we're going to build a Power BI reporting, and then you just have it as one tab inside of the reports. Um, yeah,
Okay.
so we can enhance it, but we wanted to have like a plug and play solution, which does not need like weeks to set up, but where you just give consent that we can use the APIs. And once that's done, everything's working.
Lovely. And how is the licensing based here? Like, is it like a one-time product buyout, or how?
No, unfortunately not. No one time. It's like licensed per user, or like per app, or per citizen developer who is using the application and who creates a project. So we are focused on like bigger companies. In Germany, bigger companies are around like 10 to 15,000 people and bigger. But it really makes sense, or most companies feel the pain of a messy tenant when you're 80,000 people or above.
Right.
And so usually it starts around 40 to 50 thousand euro or dollar. At the moment, it's really the same per year.
Okay, per year. Okay. And for like, there's no limit of the user base. Like, it's for the organization whole company. That's nice.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
really good.
Yeah. I mean, we always look like at the beginning, we always look like at the numbers, how many makers you have inside of your organization. Because if you are like a producing, a manufacturing organization, it might be that that you have many people who don't even have access to the Power Platform, right? Or they're not licensed. and we don't want to like license them where they cannot bring in value because they don't have the licenses. So yeah, but as I said, usually it starts around, okay, still sharing. Usually it starts around 40 to 50K in a
Okay,
year.
and I would say, I know it's the same. It would be linked with the Active Directory and single sign-on, so they don't have to log in again to these applications.
No, yeah, it's all via Microsoft, and the data, like we have two different models. Either you can have the database inside of our subscription,
Okay,
but no company is doing that. They all want to have it in their Azure subscription, and
right,
then yeah, it's a multi-tenant platform, so you can just jump into the right subscription and use the data.
perfect. Love it. Thank you for consulting. This was really good. A nice,
Cool,
nice
thank you.
takeaway, yes.
Thanks. I'm glad you liked it. Maybe we see each other again. It's the first time for me that I heard of this community, but I will join you in the next session. So
Thank you, Konstantin. Thank you for joining us here today, and it was really needful. As you know, the Power Apps governance is the hot topic, and you are
yeah,
at the right stage of the product. So this is really good.
yeah. I mean, in Germany, it's. I mean, it's not a new thing, but it's about to start. I think in the US, companies are much. Yeah, the adoption is much higher of the Power
Right.
Platform.
Even
Um,
Microsoft is acknowledging and they're bringing their Power Platforms, governance, COE, kit toolkits, and all the stuff because I think
yeah,
it's the future upcoming. Right?
yeah. So for everyone who's interested in in governance for the Power Platform or has the role of the administration of it, I think there is now something called managed environments. I've just seen it recently. Maybe I will share the link to it. It's still in previews. It's a preview feature, but it sounds quite interesting. Yeah, maybe it helps the one or the other.
Okay. And Konstantin, if you can share your social handles so that people can reach out to you if they have any questions on a
Yep.
later stage, that would be helpful.
Yeah, of course. So let me quickly share this one again. Let me go to this. So you can either scan this, but I will as well like post in the chat my
All right.
LinkedIn profile.
Just put it on the video.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you, Konstantin. Thank you for joining us today. It was really amazing session at the end of your day to be for me still going on. Uh, but thank you for coming here. We'll surely invite you again for one of our sessions.
perfect. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Take care.
See you then. Bye.
Bye. So that was Constantin. I think governance is just an amazing part which we are all following based on our products. But Power Apps has been vast now as we're all encouraging citizen development. I think Power App is where we require a lot stricter governance modules. And here we had one of those clients here. So thank you again, Constantin, for having us here. And viewers, thank you for joining us today. Do let us know if you want to hear specific topics, specific sessions. We will bring our speakers accordingly, and I'll see you again next month. Take care. Bye bye.